Very, very incredibly well crafted. Tell you what, there is a lot of talent standing behind me.
Today, we took the first step toward rescuing families from the failures of Obamacare.
Like I said, we've got a lot of work to do. But one thing is now clear. Republicans are committed to keeping our promise.
All right, only a few people were allowed to speak at that big event with the President of the United States, and Steve Scalise was one of them for good reason. He's the House Majority Whip. He is a very important player in all of this and bridges sometimes the rants he gets from the President of the United States and his own speaker, party leadership, and the rebellious members of his party. But that's the kind of guy he is. He can bridge that gap. The House Majority Whip with us right now. Congressman, thank you for coming.
Great to be back with you, Neil.
All right, now the heavy lifting in the Senate. I talked to Rand Paul, Congressman, who was saying that while he commends the work you and your colleagues did, he's not keen on what you finally did, and that it is still something that emboldens insurance companies. And as a former doctor himself, still a doctor, he doesn't like that. What do you say to the Rand Pauls and others who might share that view?
Well, the good news is that now he gets his chance to go and write his perfect bill. And I think what anybody will find out, just like we did with a very diverse conference we have on the House Republican side, is that a lot of people have their own ideas, but it takes, in our case, 216 votes to pass a bill. Over in the Senate, they're going to have to, Senator Paul has a great idea. He's going to have to find 50 other people that agree with that great idea.
True.
But at the end of the day, what's most important is following through on our promise to free people from the failures of Obamacare and lower premiums and put patients back in charge of their health care decisions. Our bill does that while protecting people with pre-existing conditions, and it's a really good bill. And if the Senate wants to make it even better, I encourage them to do that.
Do you worry, though, when the Senate more or less makes it clear, Congressman, they're going to start from scratch? They're not even taking your effort. They're going to go from scratch. I don't know how it typically works in Washington, but isn't that weird?
No, we heard a lot of this 2 years ago when we were moving a bill out of the House to put on Barack Obama's desk to gut Obamacare. They said it's dead on arrival. We'll never vote for it. Guess what? The bill didn't change that much, and it got onto the president's desk. Of course, he vetoed it. Donald Trump wants the bill on his desk that he will sign to rescue people from this failed law. So ultimately, they've got to put together their coalition and pass a bill that achieves those goals just like we did, and I wish them well.
By the way, Congressman, because of weather-related issues in the New York metropolitan area, your feed to us sometimes goes in and out. So I hope that stays strong and we don't have to say goodbye to you. But in the meantime, I wanted your take, Congressman, on what will be the next step here. Because after this, assuming the Senate comes up with something and assuming you guys can work it out, conference, the differences, that then tax cuts would be next, but that it might be more like a fall event. Is it your hope, whether you stick to that timetable or can, that those tax cuts be retroactive?
Absolutely. Obviously we've got to work through Obamacare. We've done our part now. The Senate's got to.
It actually happened. Congressman, you can still hear me. It went out. Are you still with us, sir?
Okay. I sure am, yeah.
All right. This is not deliberate. Barack Obama has not taken over our feed here.
That's a good sign.
The president and his people, by the way, have said, the former president's people have said that you've gone ahead and assured many will die, and you've heard extremes like that, and that the millions are going to be left without coverage, and that you guys shouldn't have been high-fiving it. What do you say to that?
They've been the party of broken promises, from Obamacare's promises that were all broken. If you like what you have, you can keep it. Prices will be lower. People are paying double-digit increases. Iowa just lost their entire health care marketplace. So if you're in Obamacare, you literally will have nowhere to go to get health insurance, and we're seeing that play out in more states. We've actually put a plan in place that'll lower premiums. And, oh, by the way, when they say pre-existing condition people will be hung out to dry, in our bill we have multiple layers of protection for people with pre-existing condition who don't have those protections in Obamacare. So if you want premiums to go down, you like our bill. If you want Obamacare in the double-digit increases every year and $12,000 deductibles, then obviously you wouldn't like our bill. But at the end of the day, we ran on this. We have a mandate to follow through on this, and President Trump has been very clear from the beginning. He wants to lower premiums for families. Our bill does that.
Let me ask you a little bit about expectations now, back to the tax thing, that just to be clear, sir, you have to have all this settled, the health care thing settled before. I mean, you can work on whether the leadership or the various committees, House Freedom Caucus is apparently tinkering around with its own ideas for a tax cut, but none of that can begin in earnest until this health care thing is approved, right?
Right. We approached this repeal and replace bill through the budget reconciliation process because that allows you to move a bill through the Senate with 51 votes. We want to do the same thing with tax reform, and you can only have one of those bills moving at a time. So we need to move through Obamacare first, then we move to tax reform, and let's make our country competitive and lower our overall rates. That's something I think you're going to see jumpstart the economy like nothing we've seen in decades.
Real quickly on the pre-existing condition thing, what's to stop if I move from a state where everything is covered into a state where, because it's pre-existing, it's covered at a higher rate, may not paying a much higher rate in that given state?
The first layer of protection is what's called continuous coverage, meaning if you have insurance today, as long as you keep insurance, even if you go from one plan to another, if you lose your job and you go to Medicaid, and then you go back into the workforce, all of that means you're continuously covered. You will never be rated differently than you are today.
It's only when I let that coverage lapse. But what if I start out? What if I start out not having coverage? I'm a young person. I do have a pre-existing condition, and all of a sudden, do I start from the get-go, depending on the state, paying a much higher rate because of that?
No, if you're in a state that would request a waiver under our plan, one of the extra protections we put in, and this was one of the final amendments to come in, the Upton, Billy Long amendment, adds $8 billion of extra money just for those states that would want to waive that protection. And by the way, you can't waive the protection of pre-existing conditions, but if you were not insured at all, we put $8 billion in place so you can actually come back into the healthcare marketplace at competitive rates, and then you're covered, and you're continuously covered as long as you maintain it.
I said it would be the last, and I lied to you, Congressman. You know, President Trump invited all of you guys to the White House. He did not invite the 20 Republicans who voted against this. There's nothing unusual in that, but is that a message you think he's sending? I'll remember those who work with me. I'll also remember those who do not.
No, what he wanted to do is focus on the fact that we passed a really good bill that lowers premiums, that actually gives people freedom to pick whatever health care plan they want and protects people with pre-existing conditions. Of course, if somebody didn't vote for the bill, they might not have wanted to go and help celebrate that. You know, Nancy Pelosi surely wasn't there, but she still wants Obamacare. She wants double-digit increases for people. She wants government controlling your health decisions. We're done with that. Those days are over. This is the first step. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, but at least we got this process moving yesterday.
All right, Mr. House Majority Whip Steve Scalise, very good seeing you.